Okay, nothing has changed since I talked to you in my last couple updates. Again, we're looking for this pullback, and we're looking for a test now of the low from last Tuesday's low from the 18th. That's the low over here. We formed this rising wedge, and again, this is the 60-minute chart of Bitcoin right here. We formed this rising wedge, got that bottoming tail there, and let me just switch my color here. We got that bottoming tail, and we formed the rising wedge. We went up the 50 period on the daily chart, overthrew the 20, hit the 50, and got a reversal. And again, it was a failed push above the 20 period. Now we may be in backtest mode with our bullish falling wedge, but it may be a larger bull flag pattern if we go lower. So again, it's what I'm watching right now. And look at this. This is I'm watching this low. Are we going to take it out or get a higher low? That's what I'm watching right now. I'll try to give you more of an update either later today or tomorrow on the situation. Right now, I'm just watching this closely. Nothing has really changed. So again, we're continuing to monitor everything I've been talking about in my last couple updates. Look at this, though. We had that bottom on the 18th. The RSI went into positive territory. You got back above the 50. You had a bullish 50 signal. You got back above the 50 level on the RSI. You got back above the 50 period. And then when we took it out here, you got a 50-50 sell signal, and that's a signal that has remained. And notice we keep getting rejection at the 50 here, 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 and here. So again, do we bottom out, get a higher low, and then try to clear these levels and see signals begin to turn back to bullish, or is there more work to be done? We go down and take out this low. So again, just short term here in the hourly time frame, watching if a larger bullish divergence forms, or is this it? We have a potential bullish divergence right here. Again, we could see a larger one in the 4-hour time frame with the low over here on the 18th from last Tuesday. Look at the MACD. It went negative with the breakdown of the rising wedge. Okay, and it went back up and it got rejection at the 200 here, and then the 50 over here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 200 over here. And again, notice the MACD stayed in the negative region. Do you see this? So again, going to be watching, does a bullish divergence complete here? And it may be that it completes with the higher low above this level or a slightly lower low. This is what I'm watching, and this is what I've been telling you to be watching for, because I believe a bottoming process is happening, and we very well could see that this week. I told you that I thought a bottoming process would complete this week, and we may see it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We got NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday, watching to see if we complete a bottoming process on Bitcoin. We had strategy come out and buy a bunch more Bitcoin. So again, still down right now. The social media, the folks on social media were hoping that would give a bottom. I think we are going to bottom here, and it could be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So again, do we bottom here with the higher low or take this level out? If we do take it out, again, I think you're forming this potential divergence right here on the MACD. And again, the MACD and the RSI, or the RSI, doesn't look at the bottoming tails right here. So again, we don't have to move beyond that low from early February. That was the tariff sell-off low. But I'm watching this low from the last Tuesday right here. Do we get a higher low, or do we take it out? And again, I've marked these levels. I've been talking about these levels. You've got the breakout of the bullish falling wedge. Are we back testing that now, and we're going to bottom with a higher low, maybe fill in the gaps from the rising wedge, a smaller rising wedge right here? Or do we go a little bit lower? This is what I'm looking for. Regardless of whichever way it plays out, I think we're going to carve out a bottom here. And again, I think the support zone is going to hold, as I continue to say. I think the January low. And I told you, we may try to take out this low, but again, my guess is you're going to set up a higher low here above the support zone, above the tariff sell-off right here, and the January low, which again, nailing the terms. We call the day of the top over here in December at the trend line. Had a trend line right here that again, on the linear scaling that I predicted we were going to move to it, bottom there on the 13th, and we did. We bottomed that day. I called a bottom there, and then on the 20th, inauguration day, we get that reversal bar, and I called another top right there. So just been knowing it. Told you we were going to get this pullback. That's correct. Again, just absolutely killing it, just nailing the turns because I have good indicators. So again, just wanted to update you on this. Again, I don't know if we're in backtest mode here for the bull flag or if this is evolving into maybe a larger bullish falling wedge here, and we go a little bit lower. We do have in this larger potential bullish divergence that's developing here, and even if we don't get it with this low right here, you have it already. You have it already right here with this low right here. We move slightly lower. Even the bottoming tails are not recognized by the RSI. So again, we move that. If you look at the little push here, the real body and the real body right here, you do have it. Okay, so again, we may not get another reference point of a divergence there with this low, but it is certainly possible you get this larger divergence. Here we could confirm a higher low or get a lower low. We'll be watching to see which way it plays out. Again, I am looking for a bottoming process. I marked this area for a back test. We're doing that now. If we go a little bit lower, then I'll be looking into this area, into the support zone. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds. But I think you're going to get these divergences. And again, the MACD over here, same thing with those shadows. Again, right here, we've reached the level just below those shadows, and again turned up, got the rising wedge right into our 200 period, right into the 50 period in the daily, and turned down. So we're going to be watching just complete with the higher low right here, or we go a little bit lower. I was watching those gap fills on the IBIT ETF. We had the little rising wedge form, and we gapped higher here, we gapped higher here. We came back, we filled those gaps, and right now we're filling the gap right here at 53.50. We're filling that gap right there. We just filled it, and we tested the low right here from the 18th, last Tuesday's low. So what I'm watching is, do we go a little bit lower, or do we get a higher low and bottom out with the IBIT ETF? So again, I do think a bottom is going to form. I think the January 13th low over here is going to hold, okay? But again, the question now is, do we take out the low from last Tuesday, get a higher low, or do we go a little bit lower and bottom out? Regardless of how it plays out, and it can play out either way, but regardless of how it plays out, I think you're going to bottom here. My guess is we're going to push a little bit lower. We have a trend line just a little bit lower. So does the S&P. The S&P has that 2023 trend line. I think it's going to hit it. And I think Bitcoin's probably going to push a little bit lower and hit it. But I want to be clear. Again, that's speculation on my part. We could easily, just as easily, get the higher low scenario here with IBIT. So whether it's a slightly lower low or a higher low, we'll be watching. But again, looking at this now, Bitcoin's back testing the trend line of the bull flag. IBIT got above it and then threw back into the trading range. So again, could we come down into this area here and complete this massive multiple point bullish divergence? I think that's very possible. Look at the MACD right here on IBIT. I think that's going to happen. So I think we're going to come down into this area lower, and then I think we're going to bottom out. So again, then I think Bitcoin's going to go up and take out 109,000, move to new highs, and I think again it's on its way to 135,000. And if we take our sweet time getting to my target level, the trend lines, then maybe higher, maybe closer to 138 to 140,000 if we take our time. We have taken our time. We've gone nowhere since November. That's great news, because that means Bitcoin's going higher. I've just been nailing the trades here with Bitcoin. Absolutely incredible with these intraday charts. Now, if we look at the daily chart again, here's our bullish falling wedge. We had our bull flag over here. We broke out. I told you we back test that, called the top over here on the 20th. That was correct, okay? And again, here's the top I called with the topping tail in December. Here's the bottom that I called on January. And again, these are all at trend lines. If you pay attention to support and resistance, you can make absolutely incredible calls, which is what we've been doing. Predicted this pullback. I think it's coming to a conclusion. And I think it's going to finish this week, okay? But at this bottom right here, this bottoming tail, we rallied up, got above the 20, and then the thing failed. We had the Bybit hack and all that, and some volatility surrounding all of that. Now we're coming back to test that low right here. And again, coming back to this trend line, we didn't quite reach it there. Here we are reaching it. So again, right below that, you have the trend line going all the way back to the 52,000 low, the higher low that's set up. I'll show you that. I'll zoom out in a second. But again, I've marked this area. This is the buyer interest area. We're hitting our 78.6 Fibonacci right now. Okay, right now, we're hitting it. Do we bottom with the higher low on Bitcoin right here? And do we get that higher low on IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF, or do we go a little bit lower and hit this trend line? And if we do, again, the S&P has a trend line from the 2023 low. Both of them have been interesting. It's been interesting to watch because both of them have been doing very similar things. They have a positive correlation. Recently, we had a short-term decoupling where the S&P moved to new high, Bitcoin did not, but they're both pulling back. Both bottomed on the January low. They both peaked out in December. That's pretty interesting. They both had a sell-off in early 2025 here. So again, we'll be watching. Although we may get that higher low at the 78.6 Fibonacci, this area, this horizontal support and our tariff sell-off low and the January low, this is a support zone. So this is the area I'm watching. Do we take out this bottoming tail right here? Do we take it out and go a little bit lower and hit this trend line? Or do we hit and bounce off of this trend line from the tariff sell-off low and the January low? That's what I'm watching. Are you paying attention to the trend lines right here? Okay, we're trying to bounce off that one and this one right here, back testing the bull flag. Do we go a little bit lower and maybe hit this trend line right here, or even violate it and get a bottoming tail like these bottoming tails over here? Do we violate it a little bit, go into test closer to the support zone? So this is what I'm watching. Trend line right here, and I got a lot of annotations on here, so sorry about that. But again, I'm watching the trend line here from the 52,000 low, and let me just show you again. We had that low at 49,000. The low at 49,000. Giving us that 33% sell-off. We got the higher low connected to this higher low right here at our 100 period moving average. And again, do we try to bounce right there at that trend line, which is directly below? Do we reach that Monday or Tuesday here, maybe Wednesday, as I've been saying? Do we try to bottom out this week and complete the bottoming process? I think that this low is likely going to hold. As I've said, the support zone, this January low here, and probably this low right here. But do we flirt with this area a little bit more? Or is that it? Is that it? Do we bounce off this trend line and we get this bottoming tail and this successful back test of the bull flag? Or do we have a larger bull flag pattern? This bullish falling wedge, is it back testing, or is it now evolving into another bull flag like we had over here with the breakout and the back test? Do we end up trying to find a bottom in this area? I think you're going to. I think Bitcoin's going to bottom, and then I think it's going to rally up, and I think again it can move as high as 135,000, maybe more, if we go up to the target levels I've been talking about. And just quickly, I think S&P is doing something very similar to Bitcoin. And kind of now getting some volatility as they had a short-term decoupling. But I think S&P is getting this push, and I think it's going to complete at the trend line of support. Bitcoin, I think, could hit that trend line by Tuesday or Wednesday. It does go beyond the low from last Tuesday, as we were talking about. P15-minute chart up close. I think a larger divergence will develop. I think we'll go a little bit lower, hit the trend line. I think Bitcoin will bottom out, and I think that could come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday here. I think that you got a good shot of it happening Tuesday, a bottom and ahead of NVIDIA earnings. We'll be watching. But again, S&P is doing exactly what I thought. And again, I drew all of this before it happened. And beautiful 5-leg push lower, I think, is under construction here on the S&P. I think that's going to form a divergence on the S&P 500 on the 60-minute chart. And again, I think we're getting this wave 4. Maybe it's done shorter or a little bit higher, but then I think we get 5 and we hold above this low right here on the S&P. And then I think the S&P has a good shot at bottoming. That's what I think is likely going to happen. If you watch my Elliott wave count on the S&P over the weekend, this is a scenario that I'm favoring where we had a 1 here and we're already starting. That's why I'm saying Bitcoin could already be starting sub-wave 3 if this scenario on S&P could be doing it too with this first microwave of that subwave 3. If we completed the 1 and the 2 right here of these subwaves, are we now in subwave 3? And we're starting these smaller microwaves, 1, A, B, and now C. I think that's probably the case. Again, I have the guts to tell you what I think. That's what I think. I gave 3 other possibilities. Them has been invalidated, so there's 2 other possibilities I talked about in my weekend video. If you didn't watch that video, you should go watch it. Interested in the S&P 500. Quickly, this is what I think is going on with the S&P 500. I think it's going to bounce off of this trend line right here. And again, I think we're getting a rally. We're going to push back to test this level one more time, and then I think we're going to go on up into this trend line. I think it's doing exactly the same thing Bitcoin is doing, rising into a larger channel. The weekly chart and the rising wedge here on the S&P daily chart. But again, I think that Bitcoin either completing the subwave 2 or it's started the subwave 3, and we get these smaller waves like I've got marked right here with the S&P. This is what I think is going on with the S&P. I think we're going to bottom this week. I think the S&P will bottom, and so will Bitcoin, and we'll resume the advance into the announcement of the start of the tariffs. That's what I think is likely going to be the case, and probably an inflation freakout with the CPI that April 10th. Might post a video tomorrow. Check back for that. If not, I will post one on Wednesday, but I might post one if I think that the bottoming process is completing. I might give you a heads up. You need the S&P because Bitcoin and the S&P, they have a positive correlation, and they're both doing the same thing. Quickly, I think that Bitcoin is in a minor wave 5. If we take out the January low, then minor wave 4 is not done yet. But I think that we have this 5 leg push higher in these 5 minor waves to complete the intermediate wave 5, and to complete the whole thing is primary wave 5. And I think you're going to see a top once we reach the trend line. Again, that could take us up into 135,000, maybe higher if we hit it later, or lower. But I think you're rallying into. Don't forget about our seasonality. Don't forget, again, you tend to have this March rally going into April sometimes. I remain bullish on Bitcoin, and I think, again, the volatility we've gotten in January and February is consolidating to give us another push higher. I remain bullish on Bitcoin. I think we're going up here, but then I think we're going to top. And then I think it's going to get really ugly as Bitcoin begins to price in the recession. We get the tariffs likely starting, again, time after April 1st. Those reports are going to the president on April 1st, and the tariffs could begin any time after that. We get the CPI on April 10th. So again, I think we're going to get a big rally, probably surrounding the tax cuts, maybe other news, other positive news for Bitcoin, and then I think you're going to get this top, and then I think the bottom is going to fall out of Bitcoin. But again, I remain bullish on Bitcoin. I believe that we're in this minor wave 5, or if we take out the January low, that minor wave 4 is not quite done. But this is what I believe is happening. Don't forget about the seasonality. Again, from January to March, you tend to have the volatility either in January or February, which we've had both here. Over here, you had it in January, and then you had the big run up into March and on into end of the quarter there. Same thing over here. You had the run up in January, but then you got the volatility there, late January on into February there, and then you had that push into March and early April. Okay, and then again the same thing over here. You had some volatility, but then you had a push into late March. A lot of choppiness there. But then it was followed by these April sell-offs. And April to September have been bad for Bitcoin in the last 4 years. I think you're going to see the same. I think you're going to push higher, but then I think Bitcoin's going to peak, and you're going to start this reversal, and I think Bitcoin will complete the blow-off top. And again, when it happens, nobody will think that is the blow-off top. But I'm showing you where I think it's going to go. Bullish on Bitcoin. I think we're going to go higher. I think we have a consolidation that's going to give us the final phase of the blow off top. Don't lose sight of what's going on here with our seasonality. We're going to rally into the beginning of the tariffs going into April over the next 6, maybe 8 weeks or so. I think signals are forming these bullish divergences that I think are going to come down, probably take out this low and test the support zone, as I've said. Again, it's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong about that. Again, I told you what I'm looking for. Sorry about that. I had to take a call. I think we're going to bottom here or just below this in the support zone. But look at the divergences on all my indicators. The signals that correctly called the peak in January, the January bottom, and the December peak. Again, I think they're signaling we're about to bottom here, but I think there's a little bit more work to be done. We're going to be watching. Do we get a higher low above this level, or do we take it out? And again, I think you're going to bottom this week, and that could come Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday here, in my opinion. Could I be wrong? Yeah, but look, I have the guts to tell you what I think. Very few people will do that. I tell you what I think. Right or wrong, I tell you what I think. And the signals have just been nailing it. Again, our signals have been bearish. I told you we were going to get that pullback after January 20th. We have. I'm looking at the support zone. I'm looking at these divergences. I think they're going to complete, and you're going to establish a bottom. So I think that could come Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, but I think, again, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. I think you got a pretty good shot, and maybe even Monday. But I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you got a good shot of a bottom this week, in my opinion. The herd is getting very, very bearish. Bearish back up at the top when I called the top in January. Or back at the December top. That's the herd. They get very bullish at tops and very bearish at bottoms. So remember that. Don't forget that. Now lastly, I just want to show you the L8 wave count up close here, what I'm looking at. Now again, I think you're getting this 5 leg push higher for minor wave 5. Minor wave 5 right there to complete intermediate wave 5, intermediate wave 4 completed over here, and then primary wave 5, the whole thing, okay? But as what I'm looking at is, okay, we're either completing wave 2 right here, or it's already done. It's already done with the low that we had with the tariff sell-off, and we're now starting these smaller subwaves, these microwaves of the wave 3, and we very well could already be in it. But again, it's possible that wave 2 is not yet done. So again, those are my two possibilities. Either way, I think here, we're going up here. So just some things to be paying attention to. And again, this could take us much, much higher with Bitcoin, at least to 135,000 if we reach it. In this scenario right here would take us closer towards 140,000 right here. So again, depending on it takes to reach this trend line, but this is my target, not a number. A number is not my target. Again, look at right here. We haven't reached the trend line. We went sideways for months now. Since November, we've been going sideways. We didn't reach it. That means good news. Bitcoin's going higher, but I think it's going to top in here somewhere, and I think you're going to get, once we complete the wave 2, or if it's already done and we're completing the first little microwaves of wave 3 here, of these subwaves, I think you're going to get the subwave 3, 4, and 5 to complete minor wave 5. So don't lose sight of the big picture. This is what I think is going on, but I think you're going to get a bottom in all likelihood this week on Bitcoin. Now that's amazing information. If you found that helpful, support the channel with the link directly below. You want the information. Going back to trading. Live it, love it, learn it. We'll keep you posted. Got a video tomorrow if I think a bottom is happening. So check back for tomorrow. Probably won't do a video later today unless I think Bitcoin bottoms. But again, because I went longer here than I thought I would. But I might put out a video on Tuesday. And if I don't, I will be posting on Wednesday. But I'm looking for that bottom this week. Right on, right on, right on.